Hey everyone, this is Jan, and you are watching my little daily indie game dev for Wednesday, the 3rd of June, 2026. This is my little top-down game. In this video I was checking all the collision. I spent days on that. Now we're actually trying to build a first fetch quest, and I've run into the first little obstacle, which is in the list I built yesterday. I was so focused on all the steps for building the actual quest, right? And the conversation that I kind of forgot, like further down, I figure out, okay, so we'll have to give the player something that I can give the player now. And so, okay, he can swim, but let's rob him of the ability to swim. And then he has to receive the flippers in order to swim. So that is like a first little quest. What I realized is that if I rob you of the ability to swim, then what happens in the game? Well, you should drown, right? Like you should not swim. And so I realized that I need to have a very simple animation that shows the player splashing about, and then it's game over, so that you understand that you can't swim, so that you actually achieve something by getting the flippers, and then you go back and discover, you can swim now. Consequences. So yeah, if you're new here, we're building a little top-down adventure game in the vein of old school 16-bit, 8-bit, 16-bit games like Zelda, Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, the likes. This is my little angry elf, as I've been calling recently. It's just a little moniker that stuck because of he's always frowning. And now we're expanding on it with making a very simple quest, which I outlined yesterday. So watch yesterday's video if you want to go over what I'm planning to do in the next days, weeks, months. Let's see how long it takes, shall we? So let's get started. I've got Aseprite up and running. We've got a little duplicate of the first frames. I think I only need to have one direction. This is the strategy to save time. I started with dive. My dive animations aren't actually done. It's really just for diving left. That's it. I figure once I have that up and running, at some point I'll sit down and animate all the other directions. Let's save this file out as idle basic. So now I think we can pretty much get rid of these. Then we add a tag with the direction. Okay, so first things first, let's change this expression. Drawing on keyboard and mouse at the moment. Alright, let's go with that. Okay, so let's make a different frame. I'm abusing the layers already. Just doing whatever. It should be splashing around. But once it's in place and working, then at some point we can choose to spend more time on animation. Let's see if we can just very simply. Giving me a hard time. Onion skins always makes me think like I've got opacity in there. I messed something up. Alright, let's try that again. File, save, file, export as. Underscore. So let's have a quick little look. Okay, we're back in Unreal. Always a quick test. So the normal behavior we have going right now is you go for a swim. There's current. Shadow is still not behaving quite consistently. Apply paper to these settings. Okay, quick save. Okay, we want these in. But first, the housekeeping. We go to my... I need to keep an eye on the garbage collection GC dot time between purging. Because always when I have it open for a while, there's a hiccup and I don't understand why. I do understand I have too much stuff in my Unreal that needs to be optimized that could cause it, but I always make it disappear and then it always comes back. And that is the part I don't understand. Alright, we drop these in. We right click, we sprite actions, apply paper 2D settings, then can I just hit F2? Yeah, T underscore, just trying to be consistent with the naming conventions. Okay, we got those. I think I can just select all. Then we create a flipbook. Flipbook, FB, not Facebook. Flipbooks, go here, move there. That's it. Another animation added. Why do we have a spinning? Then go to, there it is. Probably want to bring this down a bit. What is 6 like? Nope, 8. Yeah, let's do 8. So now we need to find our swimming ability in my spaghetti code. And we need to add a boolean, which of course in any blueprint you have all the components and the functions and all the bits and pieces you get to see here in the viewport. I thought that was quite a lot to take in when I first started learning Unreal. Like, I remember like not knowing, like understanding event graph, but not knowing where it is. Like when you accidentally click it away, like then what, right? Even now I'm like hesitant, like don't just show them and then not being able to find it. So we need to have a quick little look. Let's see. We were going to have a look at the player stats, which is not the same as player state. Let's see, is diving possible? Yeah. Is in water? We're going to need can swim. And then on this side, you have the actual settings for the variable, which is akin to Xcode. It's the same thing. Like you have everything lined up here, and then the actual so this is like the index, if you will, and then the actual attributes editor is over here. Can swim should be set to no default. Now we need to open up this is, I think, the correct folder. Yeah, so we got animation state and animation blueprint. First we go here. So first we need to add a new animation, which is drown or can't swim. Drown. Animation data is going to be FB underscore. There it is. That's it. That's what we want to see. Press pause to save that again. Then we go back to animation blueprint, which is a mess. So here we have swimming. Let's have a quick look here. Target is swimming. So this obviously needs to have a can swim. Get can swim. And then this, let's see, is swimming, is swimming. I don't want to mess with that. So I'm going to do here and can swim is on. Is swimming is on. Your character movement is set to swimming, or, and then can swim. I need to make sure that it, because I just copied and pasted things over without telling it explicitly it's from the owning main character that we're casting from. So just very quickly, I guess, this part is very important because we are not actually in the player blueprint, we're in a different blueprint. And so in this different blueprint, you have, when the game starts up, it casts to the player and it sets a reference to the player, its own variable in its own blueprint, right? And then, only then, can you refer to it in any of these parts. And so you can talk to this blueprint from over here. So that's kind of what we're doing. So is falling also needs to check. The is swimming is set on, like, so when you enter the water, this is turned on. But now we're doing a different check. Does the player actually have the ability to swim? Any others? Oh, so connect. Check if the player can actually swim. All right, what's next? Let's see. Animation state. We're going to call this one drowning. Can you say that on YouTube? like that. From diving to drowning. If you walk into the water, this is what we're going to be testing soon. Okay. I think we simply want to copy this. Let's have a quick look here. So inside this state, we need to animation, play, drown, which is on a loop. We're not changing the play rate. We've set that in the flipbook, or you can even set the start position. It's kind of interesting, I guess. So this is now on. So now we paste this all in, and we add a knot like this. So basically, when everything is the same as swimming, but you can't swim, you go here. So now we're just going to have to repeat that for all of them. Alright, so I guess the next thing is, well, first we test, just walk into the water. And then after that, if this is working, then we can go to what happens when you drown. It's working. Is that awesome? But you still have control. Which is funny. Ah, it's nice. It's nice when things work out, right? Except, why doesn't it want to go back? Like it does with swimming. Where do we decide that? Let's just check. So when you're swimming, is there actually a go back? Yeah. Let's see here. Target is in water. It's not in water. It's not swimming. And so now I'm thinking, so why isn't this working? But of course, we're looking at swimming and not drowning. So if I simply copy this and then drag one out here, we should be able to get the same. Which would mean if you are drowning but you manage to get back on land, you can save yourself. Simple test. And it works. Awesome. Next is I need to walk the dog. Catch you in a bit.
Unable to swim. Let's have a little think about that while I jump off the waterfall. Oh wait. It's not. Glitch happened. So this is not working, except for this ticket glitch. I guess we are going to have to do something. Really haven't thought about this. Okay, I'm staying. Okay, so the heaviest of the game is going to be, let's check it. When swimming is working. If can't swim, this is false. So this is very simple. Happen. We're going to test it. Okay, so it's beyond, right? So we don't want that. Do that because if you are in the water, that's where there is in the water, and you can't swim. So this works. And then we need to come up with a timer, and that timer is going to decrease up at the end of it. So true. I'm just going to try and see if I can make it work with a delay. The tick is of course got to pulse at 60 frames a second. So if you do want to skewer, you might have to move it. So now, how do we hurt the player from moving the player? Get hurt is not in there's no jump mode to get hurt. I think it's actually set up in the parent of the parent, something like that. Got a hand with the tape extended Just careful with that one. I think I can add something here. So besides doing the obvious, which is maybe hit animation, which is played from somewhere I can't find right now. I'll add something else here. That's the health component. I don't see any extra functionality here besides setting the health. So it might actually be in the health bit itself. So let's come right there. Okay, I found the components folder. I hope this is the BTC blueprint, decrease health function. Okay, let's have a look. Current health, incoming damage. Okay, so maybe I can just call decrease health and then worry about the animation later. Let's see if we can do this. Decrease, there it is, call function. Function, put on review. Okay, do that again. Decrease health, incoming damage. It seems nice and simple. Per second, do this thing. Double click. Click on it. So if this is still true, do it again. It should be a goner pretty soon. Let's see what that looks like. How it messes up the animation. Alright, fingers crossed. I don't see the heart go down. This is working. So let's put another one in. Okay. I think I should have used this one to invent the damage. Custom event, hurt player, I should be able to call that one, and I'm gonna have to leave the rest for later or tomorrow. Lost. Hurt player, there it is. See, I can do it. It always takes forever to set up my work laptop. Things go wrong. Alright, let's see if it prints. Drown. Something red. Legendary. So, long moment. So, let's do this. When you're in the midst of a nice little floating puzzle, without the time has to work. It's going to be in the back of my mind now the whole time. Okay, we don't want this. We just want this. Last test. It's game over. Alright, will it say in the top left, drown? Yes. And it repeats, and there's some timing in between. See you tomorrow.